Northwest Arkansas keeps showing up on the best places to retire list, and if you've been researching it at all, you've probably already seen a few of those. We've got lower cost of living, great outdoor amenities, strong economy, all of that. And look, those things are true, but here's what I've noticed after helping a lot of people in their 50s, 60s, and 70s make this move. The reason they actually end up here is almost never starts with a list. It starts with a phone call from their kid. Hey, we moved to Bentonville. You should think about coming out here. And then they start researching and they call me. That's the pattern I see more than anything else, and it shapes everything about how this decision gets made and what actually matters once they get here. So that's what this video is about. Not the list version of retiring in Northwest Arkansas, but the real version. I'm Eric Eby, executive broker with the Naturally NWA home team at Collier & Associates. I've been licensed for over 10 years and I've helped over 300 families buy and sell across Northwest Arkansas. And a meaningful chunk of what I do is working with people who are relocating to be near family, including a lot of people who are at or near retirement age and making this move specifically because their adult kids landed here first. I've had a lot of those conversations, and after enough of them, you start to get a really clear picture of what people get right about this move and what catches them off guard. Here's what we're going to cover. I want to talk about Bella Vista specifically because it's the city that comes up most often with retirees, and it has a really interesting backstory that most people don't know. Then we'll get into what I consider the actual primary driver for most people making this move. After that, we'll talk about healthcare because it's the question I get asked about most, and I want to give you an honest picture. And then we'll wrap up with what the housing market actually looks like for retirees, because your priorities are probably different from a 35-year-old buying their first house, and the data looks different when you're shopping for it. So let's get into it. Let's start with Bella Vista, because if you've been researching retiring here, it's almost certainly come up. And there's way more to this city than most people realize. Bella Vista has a really interesting origin story that I think actually helps explain why it works so well for retirees today. It was literally founded as a planned retirement community back in the 60s. And if you're of a certain age, you might actually remember the television commercials for it featuring Eric Estrada from Chips. It's not a joke, that actually happened. And if you Google Eric Estrada Bentonville, Arkansas, you'll find the infomercials. The city was essentially marketed as an affordable retirement destination for decades, which is why it has an infrastructure that's genuinely built around a certain kind of lifestyle. Lakes, golf courses, community centers, and a pace of life that isn't hectic. But here's what's changed in a way that makes Bella Vista really cool right now specifically. The Back 40 trail system happened. If you're not familiar, Bella Vista now has one of the most highly regarded mountain biking and trail systems in the country running right through it. And what that did to the character of the city is pretty awesome. It brought in a younger, more active demographic that coexists with their original retirement community roots in a way that gives the city a really unique energy. You've got retirees who moved there 20 years ago, living next to 40-year-olds who moved there for the trails, and it just works. The practical advantages for retirees are also super real. The housing tends to be more affordable than Bentonville or Rogers. There's a lot of single level and ranch style construction, which matters a lot as you get older. And the pace of life is genuinely more relaxed than the more commercially developed parts of the area. If your adult kids are in Bentonville, you're about 15 to 20 minutes away, which is the sweet spot. It's close enough for the grandkids, but far enough that everyone has their own space. Okay, here's the part I think is actually the most important thing to understand about retiring in Northwest Arkansas. And it's the thing that almost nobody talks about in the retirement content about this area. The number one reason people in their 50s, 60s, and 70s call me about Northwest Arkansas is not the cost of living. It's not the trails. It's not because Northwest Arkansas showed up on some list. It's because their kid moved here. Wal-Mart's supplier network, the tech and startup ecosystem that's grown up around it, and the remote work migration. All of these things have been pulling younger professionals and families to Northwest Arkansas from all over the country for years. And a lot of these people have parents who are now watching their grandkids grow up in Arkansas on FaceTime. And at some point, that gets old. So they call me. And what I find really interesting about this dynamic is what it does to the quality of retirement experience here. If you're moving to be near family, you're not starting from zero socially the way you might if you just picked a retirement destination off a list. You've got a built-in anchor, your kids, your grandkids, and the life that's already established here, and you're weaving yourself into that rather than building something from scratch. That's a fundamentally different and honestly much better version of relocating in your 60s than most people get. The other thing worth saying about this is that Northwest Arkansas itself has the transplant culture dynamic I've talked about in other videos. This is a region full of people who moved here from somewhere else, which means the social fabric is open in a way that a lot of cities with deep established roots just aren't. That matters a lot if you're in your 60s and worried about making connections in a new place. In my experience, people who retire here are genuinely surprised by how quickly they find their people. Now let's talk about healthcare, because this is the question I get asked about more than almost anything else from people in this age group, and I want to give you an honest answer. The honest picture on healthcare in Northwest Arkansas is that it has improved significantly and it's continuing to improve, but it's not yet at the level of a major metro medical center, and you should go in understanding that. What's here and what's good? Washington Regional Medical Center in Fayetteville is a solid regional hospital, and it's been the anchor of healthcare in Northwest Arkansas for decades. There's also a VA hospital in Fayetteville. Mercy Hospital in Northwest Arkansas and Rogers is another strong option. Arkansas Children's Northwest in Springdale just completed an $82 million expansion that took it from 25 to 40 beds. That's a big deal if you have grandkids and it matters to you to have quality pediatric care nearby. Where Northwest Arkansas is still catching up is in highly specialized care. If you're dealing with something complex that requires a major academic medical center, you're probably looking at driving to Little Rock, which is about 3 hours, or potentially having to go further than that. That's the honest trade-off, and I'd rather you know that going in than figure it out after you've already moved. The good news is that the healthcare infrastructure here has been growing consistently alongside the population, and the trajectory is positive. For general care, routine procedures, and the day-to-day healthcare needs of a healthy retiree, Northwest Arkansas is well covered. It's the edge cases where you need to plan. All right, last thing, let's talk about what the housing market actually looks like if you're a retiree, because your priorities are probably pretty different from a young family buying their first house. The two things I hear most from retirees when it comes to housing are they want a single level and have manageable maintenance, and Northwest Arkansas actually does both of these reasonably well compared to a lot of markets. Bella Vista in particular has a strong inventory of ranch style and single level homes that were built specifically for the retirement demographic that's been there for decades. And you can still find very solid options in the $300,000 to $500,000 range that are well maintained and don't require you to be climbing stairs every day. That price range would be extremely difficult to find in most of the coastal markets that retirees are coming from, and even compared to Arizona or Florida retirement destinations, the value here tends to hold up pretty well. The newer construction in the area tends to skew towards larger two-story homes, which isn't always what retirees are looking for, so I always tell people in this situation that they may need to look at slightly older inventory, something in the mid-2000s to early 2010s, to find the single level ranch style that fits the lifestyle better. The good news is that inventory exists here and in a price range that still makes the move make financial sense. For context, if you're coming from California, the Pacific Northwest, or even Texas, the cost of living difference in Northwest Arkansas is still meaningful even after the appreciation this market has seen since 2019. Your home sale proceeds are likely to go considerably further here than anywhere you're currently considering, and that financial breathing room makes a real difference in what retirement actually feels like day to day. So here's the summary. Bella Vista is the city that makes the most sense for a lot of retirees in Northwest Arkansas. It was literally built for this. The back 40 trails have given it a cool new energy, and the housing stock and price points work well for this stage of life. The real reason most people make this move is the grandkids, and that turns out to be a really good foundation for a retirement relocation because you're not starting from zero socially. Healthcare is solid for routine needs and it's continuing to improve, but if specialized care is a concern, you need to factor in the distance to major academic medical center. And for housing, single level inventory exists here at price points that will likely feel very favorable compared to where you're coming from. If you're in your 50s or 60s, your kids are here, and you've been thinking about whether this makes sense, that is exactly the conversation I have every week. There's no pressure, and I'm not going to pitch you on anything. I just know this market well, and I'm happy to help you figure out if it's the right fit for you. Reach out whenever you're ready. And if you found this video useful, please hit that subscribe button. I put out 4 videos a month for people seriously thinking about making a move to Northwest Arkansas. I'm Eric Eby with the Naturally NWA Home Team, and I'll see you on the next one.